The White House just wrapped up a disastrous press conference. Donald Trump's chief propagandist, Caroline Leavitt, said that it's perfectly normal to say at that Charlie Kirk event that Donald Trump hates his political opponents. She said that's what Americans love about Donald Trump, that he's authentic when he says that he hates people, and that's why he's a leader, she says. Here, play this clip.
The additional actions to come. Sure, in the pink.
Thanks, Caroline. Liz Landers with PBS NewsHour. I just wanted to follow up quickly on something that the president had said yesterday. So we heard from Erica Kirk. She said she forgives the man who shot and killed her husband. And then right after that, we heard from the president who said, I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them. How does that square with bringing down the temperature of political violence in this country? And then, if I could, I had a follow-up on Venezuela, too.
Look, the president is authentically himself. I think that's why millions of Americans across the country love him and support him, including Erica Kirk, who you saw so beautifully was on stage with the president in an unthinkable moment, in the midst of an unthinkable tragedy, and was leaning on the president for support during that time. And he was there to give it to her, as well as the vice president and many other top-ranking cabinet officials. Kayla.
Next up, Caroline Leavitt says that there is no evidence at all that Tom Homan, Donald Trump's border czar, received $50,000 of cash in a kava bag. Kava is like a restaurant that serves like Mediterranean sandwiches and things like that. It's on tape, according to the FBI file, so let's release the Tom Homan tapes. Or are they going to cover it like they did with the Epstein files? Here, play this clip.
What people are going to say. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. So too, on the Homan investigation, I mean, can you just speak to, did the president ask the Justice Department to close the case, and does Homan have to return the $50,000?
Well, Mr. Homan never took the $50,000 that you're referring to, so you should get your facts straight, number one. Number two, this was another example of the weaponization of the Biden Department of Justice against one of President Trump's strongest and most vocal supporters in the midst of a presidential campaign. You had FBI agents going undercover to try and entrap one of the president's top allies and supporters, someone who they knew very well would be taking a government position months later. Mr. Homan did absolutely nothing wrong, and even the president's Department of Justice, even Kash Patel's FBI, looked into this just to make sure. They had a number of different prosecutors and FBI agents who looked into this. They found zero evidence of illegal activity or criminal wrongdoing. In the White House and the president stand by Tom Homan 100% because he did absolutely nothing wrong, and he is a brave public servant who has done a phenomenal job in helping the president shut down the border.
Next up, you have Caroline Leavitt being asked by a reporter that Donald Trump said during his inaugural address that never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to prosecute political opponents. So isn't Donald Trump breaking that promise, is the reporter's question. And then Caroline Leavitt, in the ultimate gaslighting, says nope, he's fulfilling that promise. She goes on to spread lies about former President Biden because that's what this regime does, and then says nope, this is what we should be doing. Going after Donald Trump's political opponents is not weaponization. Here, play this clip.
On exactly what that announcement entails.
On a different topic, going back to the president's social media post from over the weekend regarding the DOJ and his seeming frustration that they hadn't taken action quickly enough. I want to point to something that the president said during his inaugural address. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. We will not allow that to happen. Is the president going back on his promise?
No. In fact, the president is fulfilling his promise to restore a Department of Justice that demands accountability. And it is not weaponizing the Department of Justice to demand accountability for those who weaponized the Department of Justice. And nobody knows what that looks like more than President Trump. We are not going to tolerate gaslighting from anyone in the media or from anyone on the other side who is trying to say that it's the president who is weaponizing the DOJ. It was Joe Biden and his attorney general who weaponized the DOJ. Joe Biden.
Now, it should also be noted that Donald Trump's hand-picked top prosecutor for the Eastern District of Virginia found that there was no evidence to prosecute New York Attorney General Letitia James, to which Donald Trump then fired or forced out the Eastern District top federal prosecutor in Virginia. And then Donald Trump just appointed today his former personal lawyer, Lindsay Halligan. She's the one who goes through the Smithsonian and says there were too many exhibits on slavery, and now the order has been made to her to prosecute Donald Trump's political opponents after the prior prosecutor said there's absolutely no evidence to prosecute Trump's political opponents, Letitia James, Schiff, and Comey. Next up, you have Caroline Leavitt lying and saying that she secured, or that the United States and Trump has secured $9 trillion in investments for the United States. Again, this is just a totally false statement. Nothing even close to this has been secured. Last month, the United States ran about a $345 billion deficit for this past fiscal year, about a $2 trillion deficit more this year than last year under former President Biden. So if we brought in $9 trillion, Trump uses the number $17 trillion, there would be a surplus. Here, play this clip.
NASDAQ is up more than 21% since Election Day. As part of President Trump's mission to restore America as the manufacturing superpower of the world, he has secured nearly $9 trillion in U.S. investment, nearly 9 times more than Biden attracted in his entire 4-year term, and we expect that number to be upwards of $15 trillion very soon. We're already seeing the initial economic benefits of these investments with industrial production recently.
Next up, you have a reporter asking additional questions about New York Attorney General Letitia James and Trump ordering that she be prosecuted. You'll see how very matter-of-factly also the questions asked, like, okay, it's totally normal to prosecute your political opponents. And then Caroline Leavitt's like, well, you know, it's hypothetical. We haven't done it yet. Here, play this clip.
Hear him talk about that tomorrow at the UN. Kristen.
Thanks, Caroline. Just going back to this Letitia James story. What does President Trump plan to do if the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, tells him that there is not enough evidence to bring his political opponents' cases or to charge those cases?
That's a hypothetical question, Kristen. That hasn't happened at this point.
But we did see one U.S. attorney not be able to find enough evidence, and now they no longer have a job. Is that something that you would consider?
Look, the president stands with Pam Bondi 100%. He made that clear this weekend. He answered questions from all of you last night on Air Force One. He said the same, and that's how he feels at this moment in time.
Just one more thing on the Attorney General.
Go ahead.
Pam Bondi.
Caroline, would the president support designating Russia as a sponsor of terrorism if it doesn't return kidnapped Ukrainian children? And secondly,
Then Caroline Leavitt brags about how Donald Trump issued an executive order preventing a strike from taking place at a golf course in Long Island for the Ryder Cup golf match because it is a priority of the regime that this golf tournament take place so that Donald Trump can watch golf this weekend. Here, play this clip.
From President Erdogan of Turkey for a bilateral meeting. And on Friday, the president will travel to Long Island for the Ryder Cup golf match between the United States and Europe. This event is one of the greatest sporting events in the world, and it would not be taking place this year without President Trump's help. President Trump signed an executive order last week preventing a strike that would have crippled the New York City area ahead of the tournament, and at the request of the 5 labor unions who all represent workers on the Long Island Railroad. One of the greatest golfers in the world, Bryson DeChambeau, praised the president's critical intervention, saying, quote, "When the possibility of a strike threatened to disrupt transportation and attendance, President Trump stepped up and took the action needed to protect this world-class competition. Thanks to President Trump's decisive leadership, the Ryder Cup experience will be everything fans and the golf community deserve." Again, that's a quote from the great golfer Bryson DeChambeau. Now let's all hope the American Ryder Cup team can take home the trophy. In other news,
another reporter asks a question about New York Attorney General Letitia James. Let's play it.
but I don't have anything specific for you today. Sure, Selena.
Thanks, Caroline. But the case against Letitia James was extensively investigated for 5 months, and President Trump's handpicked Attorney General Eric Siebert could not find any evidence that he committed a crime. So is the president saying here it doesn't matter if there's a crime, he just wants his political enemies to be charged?
Well, let me just walk you through Letitia James. Letitia James completely abused her oath of office. Letitia James was actively and openly engaged in lawfare. You talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice. What was Letitia James's campaign slogan? It was prosecute Donald Trump. She was saying she was going to prosecute Donald Trump before she even knew if Donald Trump committed a crime, which of course we did not. Those are not the words of a serious prosecutor. Those are the words of a corrupt politician who is abusing their power. She actively campaigned on that. She also led the witch hunt, the financial fraud investigation against President Trump and the Trump Organization, in an appeals court tossed that case out, a $500 million civil fraud penalty in August, which was another win for the president, and exonerated him of this witch hunt and showed that this is an individual who is corrupt and abused her oath of office. And we also have evidence of her mortgage fraud. An April report from a white-collar fraud investigator found that there was documented evidence that James engaged in a consistent pattern of financial and property disclosures that raised...
Then a reporter asks if Donald Trump is going to have a Charlie Kirk holiday, the way we have MLK Day. Are we going to have Charlie Kirk Day? Watch the response, play this clip.
The consequences of that behavior. Nick.
Thank you, Caroline. Would the president like to see Congress pass a national holiday honoring Charlie Kirk annually?
That's an interesting question. I'm sure he wouldn't oppose such a thing, but you can pose that to him yourself next time you get the chance.
Sure thing. And to follow up.
So I guess have a day for someone who said he hated Martin Luther King, who said he hated the Civil Rights Act, who disparaged black people, gay people, trans people, women, who called for the execution of former President Biden, who mocked and made jokes about innocent Palestinians getting killed. Do a holiday for him? Well, that's what they're considering at the White House. Then Caroline Leavitt blames transgender people for shootings, just again raising up the temperature, causing further division. Let's play it.
As a follow-up on that, I asked the president last night on Air Force One about this pattern of transgender violence we're seeing. Charlie's killer lived with his boyfriend who identifies as transgender, and then we had the Annunciation shooting, the Covenant shooting, all of these incidents. The president said that we're looking into transgender violence. Does that mean the FBI is looking into it? And can you give any more clarity on how the administration is viewing this uptake in specifically transgender violence?
It's definitely something worth looking into, and I think anyone who denies that at this point is being willfully ignorant. And the administration is taking it seriously, all causes of violence, and why these people would be driven to such evil and such hatred. And there's probably many answers to that question, but the administration is really focused on all of them. For individual investigations and cases, of course, the FBI and the Department of Justice are leading those. But as for this overall violence and domestic terrorism that we're seeing, the White House and the president's policy team will be leading the charge, and that really begins with designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. And I can assure you there will be additional actions to come. Sure, in the pink.
Thanks, Caroline. Liz Landers.
She then attacks their imaginary enemy Antifa, and she says we've seen a rise in the Antifa radical people. Now, the shootings overwhelmingly are from right-wing, gun-toting people, and that's where it comes from. Here, play this clip.
Government and local officials said that Antifa inscriptions were engraved in these bullet casings that killed Charlie Kirk. It appears to be a trend, especially after what we saw in the Annunciation church shooting, Catholic church shooting. Additionally, Stephen Miller recently commented on the rise in this kind of violence, saying there is a domestic terrorist movement growing in this country. The president is designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. I'm wondering, what is the approach to holding these people accountable, just to ensure that violence like this just is eradicated moving forward?
Sure. Well, Antifa is going to be designated a domestic terrorist organization. The president intends to sign that executive order very soon as it's drafted, as soon as today, later this afternoon. And this is something the president campaigned on, because we have seen a rise in violence perpetuated by Antifa radical people across this country who subscribe to this group. And unfortunately, it's gone widely uncovered by many in the legacy media. It also went completely ignored by the previous administration. Not anymore. Not only, as you mentioned, were the...
And then Caroline Leavitt has to, of course, spread disinformation about vaccines and disinformation about medicine and autism. Today, Donald Trump is announcing that they figured out autism, and they're going to link it with acetaminophen. They're going to try to claim that, they're going to defame Tylenol and say that Tylenol is the cause, based on debunked and just complete quackery stuff. And here, Caroline Leavitt's basically like, we figured it all out. We figured out autism. By the way, the Fox Chiron today is major breakthrough in autism. I mean, this is just deranged propaganda. Breakthrough in autism? What the hell are you talking about? Here, play this clip.
And that's what the president wants to see done.
Caroline.
Ed.
On the autism issue again, there are reams of scientific research that suggests there's no clear link between autism and acetaminophen usage. You're suggesting today they may have new information on this. A lot of it, and this entire debate, has the potential to confuse women, especially pregnant women, about what to do. What do you say to those that say what you're doing today potentially just introduces more confusion into the debate?
I think women for many years, in fact for decades, Ed, have been confused by the rapid increase in autism in this country, in the childhood epidemic, that is chronic epidemic, disease epidemic that is plaguing America's youth. Women are confused about that, and they want answers to that. And that's exactly what this administration is focused on finding. And before you jump to conclusions based on reports that the White House has not even confirmed, I would encourage everyone in this room to go into the 4 o'clock announcement with some critical thinking skills and with some open ears to actually listen to what the president and his team of outsiders have to say about this. And there will be a number of things that will be announced and discussed. And I think, I know as a mother myself,
And then finally, Caroline Leavitt talks about the regime's plans of transferring U.S. ownership of the U.S. subsidiary of TikTok in the hands of MAGA oligarchs who will control the algorithm to perpetuate MAGA propaganda for the regime. And Donald Trump has really sold out American farmers who are struggling right now because China's not buying their products. They're going to Brazil, so that Donald Trump prioritized the TikTok deal to control the algorithm for right-wing MAGA oligarchs, and instead of actually dealing with the trade issues regarding China. Here, play this clip.
Top-ranking cabinet officials. Kayla.
Thanks, Caroline. On TikTok, the deal. How much is the deal? And if you can't give an exact number to how much the deal is, when can we expect to learn how much the deal is being valued at? And then separately, who are the members involved in the deal? Like, can you share any more details there?
So I don't have a specific number for you, nor am I going to confirm the specific individuals and entities in the deal, Kayla, but I do have several details I'm happy to run through for all of you, and the president will be signing the deal, the official deal, later this week at some point. Under the terms of this deal, TikTok will be owned by a majority of American investors and controlled by a board of directors with extensive national security and cybersecurity credentials. In partnership with the U.S. government, Oracle will serve as TikTok's trusted security provider, and they will independently monitor the safety and data security of all U.S. user data on TikTok's platform. Americans' data will be stored securely in the United States without access from China. All U.S. user data will be stored on servers operated by Oracle in the United States, protected from surveillance or interference by foreign adversaries. And the algorithm, I know this is a question many of you have had, will be secured, retrained, and operated in the United States outside of ByteDance's control. And TikTok will remain globally interoperable, meaning TikTok users in the U.S. will be able to see videos posted by users in other countries and vice versa. While I don't have a number...
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Thanks for watching.